I'm thinking of something else in relation to your work in tax justice. You have been awarded the Bremen Solidarity Award. And I don't know if you remember, but when you received that award, you said, and I quote, "The reason it is important to get young campaigners involved is because the more the voices of voters, the voices of young people, the more politicians will be shaken." And I'm just juxtaposing that quote with Kenya 2024, Reject Finance Bill, advocacy, the advocacy we've seen for tax justice, and what we have seen young people in this country do in terms of move an entire government, even move an entire continent. What has it meant for you to go back to the work you have been putting in for years and start to see it in a movement so powerful as what we are seeing right now in Kenya?
I have maybe 3 words. One is satisfaction. One is satisfaction. The second is relief. And I should say extreme relief. I think that is the biggest emotion as far as this matter is concerned for me, relief. And the third is surrender. Satisfaction because you work on something from the time you're 17 years old in high school until you turn 35 and you know you're no longer youth. At 35, that you helped draft into the National Youth Policy and the National Youth Council Act.
Yes, yes.
And then you graduate out of youth and you're wondering, what were we doing? What were we putting all this effort for?
Yeah.
Especially when you notice that successive governments are now reversing the gains made for young people.
Yeah.
So for me, at the time when I was now making a decision that I'm phasing out my work on youth, I was also very distressed that we had not achieved what we had intended to achieve. I sat with many friends having conversations and telling them, you know what do we do? Who do we hand over to? Have you seen the next crop of young leaders? Are they ready? What can we put on their shoulders? What do we need to continue carrying? And I met my colleagues from the same age group who were saying, you know what, we've done our part, let's leave now, you know. Some who were saying, you know, I'm done with this, I need to go and make money. And then I met some who were saying, we really need to draw a map of how this will happen, because if we don't, we're going to drop the ball and it will be an indictment on our generation.
Yeah. So
for me, the satisfaction of seeing that seed took time to die. It took a very long time to die, but now it has germinated, and we know for sure that the death of that seed delivered is one in the physical extremely important for me, because it's evidence that we did not invest for nothing. But number 2, in the spirit, it is such a huge lesson for me. I may not show it, but I'm very impatient with the results. I'm pragmatic. I want to see energy, resources being put in. I want to see the result coming out looking like the energy and the resources. So when it doesn't come out, one of the things that happens to me, and maybe it's not good for me to announce to the world because then it could be used against me, is that I become very discouraged. I'm talking about the kind of discouragement where I'm thinking, I don't need to wake up and go and do this tomorrow. I also become disillusioned, and I get fed up. And sometimes when I'm fed up, I'm irritated by too many people, even some who don't need to be part of that situation. So I had been in that state about youth work for a long time, and I know that there are times when I unleashed the negative energy on my colleagues in the sector, and I told them, you know what, you're sellouts, you just went to live comfortably and you left this agenda hanging, you know that we have not finished our part, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes it was on the youth themselves. And on the youth, I think they've heard it from me. Because many times I've told them, you're a thankless generation, people work for you, you come and inherit some of the things that people have worked on, you don't even take time to reflect on what they have been doing for you, and then you even demand for more. So I have taken out that energy on different people, but then what I have come to learn is that time for the seed to die is not a time that we control. God controls that time. And the reason why God controls that time is because of the chemistry of change. That it's normally a domino effect. one process has to end for another to start. Another starts, and then when the next one starts, the only processes that will be going on alongside that process are the ones that are linked and connected to that process, because they are all supposed to be feeding into a very, very complex story, which we call destiny. And so sometimes it may take long. Sometimes the last effort you made is the trigger that this process needed for it to bloom.
Right.
You know? And so it has taught me quite a lesson about how long the seed needs to die.
Yeah.
I probably will end this year journaling about how I surely should stop stressing about the seeds that I are still trying to find death in the soil.
Yes.
And it has also gotten me to understand that sometimes it's the least expected people who will actually now come and force the ground to break so that that seedling will come out. And Gen Z, for me, delivered that with beauty. I am extremely proud of Gen Z in this country.
Yeah.
I don't care about what they got wrong. I'm so happy about what they got right, and I pray that we will find the energy to harness the momentum that they have built to create change.
Yeah.
The second one was relief. You know, I'm trying to remember someone now who walks around regretting that they did not do enough to change certain things. Because there are a number of them. I just need to find a name now that I'm going to share with you. And I've always known that I don't want to be that person when I become a granny. And I'm saying, we wish we had done more for you. Actually, you watched the lawyer, what's his name, Paul Mwangi, saying we wish we had done more, but we are glad that our children are doing it. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be the kind of person who feels like in my moment, I didn't have enough courage to call what I needed to call out. I didn't have enough time to invest. I didn't have the motivation to do what needed to be done at the time to prepare for the seed to die. And so the relief is that something changed.
Yes.
I spent my entire childhood and youth working on these things. So for me, the fact that something has changed, this group of Gen Z have brought about mechanisms for accountability that we have been struggling in boardrooms, in meetings, in conferences, in conventions, trying to figure out ways. And all of a sudden, they have come up with a solution. It gives me utter relief. Relief that they have figured out a way, may not necessarily have been the way that I was defining. Number two is relief that I no longer have to carry this burden. I can actually walk around proudly knowing that the people in whose hands I've left this thing can handle it. I am also relieved that they have the boldness that this task requires. And the rebellion that I picked up along the way is in them in a different way. Probably a little more than I am ready to accommodate, you know, for myself. But I like that there's a certain level of rebellion, because the journey of life requires a certain kind of rebellion for you to maneuver. I don't know what my third word was. This is bad.
Surrender.
Surrender. So surrender has to do with the fact that you could be the one who has spent some time working and investing and speaking to successive governments and drafting policies and pushing for a National Youth Council Act and then doing whatever it is. And then somewhere along the way, you discover that you're not getting what you need. The ability to surrender and understand that the God who aligned all these processes knows where it's going and will make it happen is extremely critical. I have friends who struggled with the fact that it's Gen Z who are receiving the glory for what has happened now. And I sat through conversations where they're saying, you know what? What these young people don't know is that we all worked very hard to make sure that this country changes. We're the ones who created the policies around which they're working. And so for them to come here and just think that they're going to take all the... And I remember having difficult conversations with most of them, telling them, you know what? Please allow Gen Z to receive their glory. The work you did is sitting on papers, on shelves somewhere. The work you did is in policies that nobody is implementing, even though they have found their way into law. The work you did is being discussed as conversations in dialogues around the country, but nothing was happening. It goes to say there's another ingredient that was needed to activate. That ingredient, unfortunately, you can't claim it. Gen Z is the one who has injected that ingredient into the mix. And so the ability to just sit down, let them take their glory, as a matter of fact, ensure that it is their glory is overemphasized.
Yes.
So that they get motivated to act. The same way Stella was standing on a podium in Egypt, and it just awakened something in her. Allow Gen Z to take their moment. Allow this moment to blow them up the much it can. But number two, prepare your arms to hold them when they get disappointed, because they will get disappointed when certain pushbacks are made, because the status quo is not going to take these changes lying down, you know. The ability to hold them so that when they fall, they don't fall all the way down, and then you can, you know, help them develop new energy, new motivation to continue pushing, because they have broken through a level of accountability in this country, and this country can never be the same again by virtue of their actions. As far as accountability is concerned, the ship has sailed on those stories where we used to be told that there has been a corruption case on the news and then it ends there. So I personally feel that the ability to let go and say, I have done my part, the person I have handed the baton to looks very ready for the race. I don't know how far they'll be able to run. I don't know how strong they will be for this race. I don't even know if they're going to reach the finish line. But I must surrender at this point and trust that they will carry all the way to the finishing line, because the mission is not my mission, neither is it the mission of the person who's received the baton, but it's a mission of God, and God knows where it's supposed to tie onto the next actor. The ability to let go, let Gen Z enjoy their glory, the ability to celebrate them fully, the way we were celebrated for the small, you know, wins that we had, the promulgation of a new constitution, the enactment of a National Youth Council Act, is it the enactment of a Children's Act, and ensuring that this country now begins to recognize the best interest for children. At some point, take a break. Let them do what they need to do. The beauty of it is that God designs new tasks. So I have transitioned into work on tax justice and economic justice. I am leading different conversations in that space. I think it's an amazing thing that as I'm busy doing tax justice conversations, Gen Z has found another language to communicate those things here. And for me, it's just a message that every seed that I planted, even the one that never died and popped, was waiting for a time that it was going to grow. I just needed to continue with my journey, and somewhere along the way it was going to pop, you know? Number two is the fact that since I'm holding most of my tax justice conversations at a regional level and a global level, I don't get an opportunity to discuss Mama Mboga's issues on a daily basis. I don't get an opportunity to constantly scrutinize the price of bread and the price of whatever. I will scrutinize because I'm one of the taxpayers in the country, and I also spend money in this jurisdiction. But then my focus is not on that level. So the ability to know that there are people on the ground who have started appreciating tax justice, have started appreciating the concept of progressive taxation and progressive spending. The ability to know that I belong to a country where the citizens are informed enough to want to participate in those processes, because I've also been in jurisdictions where they don't even know what to do. I've done tax justice campaigns in Malawi, in Zambia, in West Africa, where citizens are able to complain about the situation, but you are unlikely to find them, you know, talking about the budget, the commitments that were made, the debt that the country has acquired. They probably will never engage in that conversation in the next 5 years, because there's also very little empowerment happening for that to be. So I celebrate the fact that I live in a country where we've been able to have sufficient conversations for everyone to take interest, for everyone to be educated or knowledgeable enough to participate in those conversations, and that we have people who have exercised their philanthropy to educate the ones who don't have the technical knowledge in a simple way for them to understand their entry point to the conversation. It's grand. It's grand. And for me, it's a huge reward, especially because at the time when I received the Bremen Solidarity Prize, which happens to be an award that I share with Nelson Mandela and Winnie Mandela, and I also happen to be the 15th laureate, and just the other African. And then I received the award and I come back into the country, and we are so busy politicking that I was not even celebrated for being the first Kenyan for receiving that award, you know. So somewhere along there I was very irritated by this country, and I'm thinking, Uhuru and Ruto will just be campaigning and not even bother, you know, celebrating that one of us has become the 15th laureate of the Bremen Solidarity Prize. But then I was reminded quickly that that award had nothing to do with Kenya. That award was God's announcement of me globally. Like I told you, when I was in high school, that Philippines opportunity, I wanted to cry. I could not believe that somebody else was going on in my place. But then God had prepared a different kind of conversations to launch me. And so I was angry for all of 2 days. And then the next thing, I started getting phone calls from local media saying that they need to write a story. A few stories were written about it. But for me, it just goes to say that some of that work that you're doing globally is connected to work that is being done locally. And for as long as there's an army of people who are already doing the work locally, the statement that I made of voters, young people, as many voices are mobilizing to ensure that they make the politicians so uncomfortable that their thorns prickling under their seats. They cannot sit, but they have to do what they need to do to change our society.